بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Mohammed bin Rashid School of Government on the launch of yet another Dubai initiative, namely the Dubai Smart Cities Forum, DSCF. A flurry of terms and perceptions has become associated with the term smart for cities. Many cities have settled for just one or a few more aspects due to various challenges and constraints. So varying levels of smartness exist within the same city, leading sometimes to uneasy contradictions within the same city. Some cities have been more successful than others as they evolved from a vision which delivers a sustainable reality. We say delivers as the process of being smart is an ever-evolving one, where adaptive strategies and policies need to guide and maintain its momentum and achievements. In addressing our driving vision, namely that of collective and inclusive smart cities, this means better urban services, less waste, and citizens empowered to make a difference. This is about improving the lives of millions of people, building a stronger society, and making better use of all our resources. ICT and digital technology has a big role to play here. It can boost productivity, make services more efficient, and stimulate new ideas and innovations in pretty much every economic sector. However, we must always remember that ICT is an enabler, and an important one at that, but it is not a goal. Talking about technology, may I point out that our translation in English will be on channel 2, and Arabic will be 1. Mobile devices put all the information you need right into your palm of your hand, so you can spot the traffic or check up on your electricity bill whenever, wherever. DEWA just announced an up-to-date consumption notification service for its customers. RTA has just introduced a PIN number that makes already easy transactions even easier, etc., etc. But citizens do not just have to be receivers of information or be passive consumers. They can also become creators, actively developing their own solutions. Indeed, a study out recently suggests that European applications economy generates billions in revenue, is worth hundreds of thousands of jobs, that innovation does not just come from governments or large companies. It comes from a whole creative cottage industry of small startups, people able to identify their own needs and innovate to take control. As we live in Dubai, the city of the future, or as referred to in an international magazine recently, the future of cities, which claims a wide array of successes, and which on global indicators holds the highest rankings for effective and creative government, we see how it continues to keep up with the changing global era and keeping up and ahead of global developments through the launch of initiatives enforcing and reinforcing its position, elevate the level of competitiveness at the global level, and ensure the welfare and satisfaction of its residents. After the Dubai government succeeded to progress in the areas or in the access of e-government, it is now racing against time in an effort to be transformed into a smart city, but not any smart city, only the smartest city in the world. I do believe that this forum today comes opposite to the traditional saying, practice what you preach. I think today we are preaching what we already practice. This move is reflected in the announcement of the Dubai Smartest City in the World strategy and holds a vision for the future with a new stage for improving and developing the quality of life through the cooperation between the public and private sectors to create a new reality and change the concept of life in the city. I'm delighted to invite His Excellency, Mr. Ahmad bin Byat, CEO Dubai Holding and Vice Chairman of the Mohammed bin Rashid School of Government Board of Trustees, who will talk to us on this initiative and its implications for Dubai.
I'm going to speak in Arabic أنا هني أمثل لجنة المدينة الذكية وليس دبي القابضة ولا الكلية. يسرنا أن نرحب فيكم اليوم في هذا المنتدى بالنيابة عن أعضاء اللجنة التنفيذية، لجنة المدينة الذكية التنفيذية. كذلك يسعدنا الإعلان عن التعاون مع الكلية، كلية محمد بن راشد والإدارة الحكومية، تقديم سلسلة من الجلسات هذه الهدف منها هو نشر وتعزيز الوعي المعرفي في المجالات المختلفة المتعلقة بالمدن الذكية. نشوف بعض الممارسات الموجودة، نستمع إلى بعض التحديات اللي حصلت في سباق المدينة الذكية. أنتم مثل ما تعرفون في مدن كثيرة في العالم بدأت الحركة هذه من زمان، وحد في وقت متأخر، وحد أفضل من حد، وحد يقدم وحد يتأخر، والدنيا ماشية يعني. ويليام شكسبير قال What is the city but the people في إحدى رواياته، ونحن نقول المكان بهله ولا بناسه، والشيخ محمد يقول البشر قبل الحجر. فالتركيز في أي مكان كان في العالم دائما على الإنسان. تحدي المدن في 40-50 سنة الماضية في العالم كله كان عبارة عن ما يسمى بالتحضر، يعني الناس ينتقلون من الريف إلى المدينة، والمدينة تكبر وتتسارع في النمو، والمسؤولين عن المدينة هذه يجب أنهم يستمرون في توفير الخدمات اللي كانوا يوفرونها لعدد صغير من الناس. الحين بدأوا يزيد الناس، هذا عدد الناس يزيد. ليش الناس ينتقلون من مكان ينتقلون إلى المكان الحضري؟ لأن يحسون بأن إنتاجيتهم وكفاءتهم كأفراد تكون أفضل، يعني يحطون وقت أقل ينتجون أكثر، لأن في أمور متوفرة، في خدمات موجودة، في بدل ما يركب فوق الجبل وينزل وهذا في شارع مثلا، بدل ما تكون في الريف، بدل ما يتعب على أساس يحصد في الحقل، الحين في ماكينة هناك في المدينة ممكن يخلص شغله فيها. فشاف أنه إذا يحط وقت أقل ينتج أكثر، وهذا سبب. على مر السنين الناس اللي بدأوا ينتقلون إلى المناطق الحضرية طبعا زاد عددهم، وصار تحويلين رئيسيين، اللي هو زيادة الوعي عندهم لأنهم تعلموا أكثر، فصار وعيهم أكثر، يعني يعرفون شو صاير هني وشو صاير برا ومن وسائل الاتصال وغيره. وفي نفس الوقت صحتهم أفضل، فكانوا يعيشون سنوات أكثر، يعني في عمرهم كان أطول. فطبيعي أن كانوا يطالبون بأكثر من المناخ اللي هم عايشين فيه، سواء هذا المناخ شركة يشتغلون فيها أو هذا المناخ مدينة عايشين فيها، يعني يبغون أكثر من، يعني يبغون يحطون ساعات أقل ينتجون أكثر. وهذا الإنسان الحديث بالطريقة هذه. فأصبحت الناس المزودين للخدمة اللي هي المدينة أو إدارة المدينة هذه عليها بريشر أكثر بأنها تقدم خدمات حق الناس هذيلا، لأن وعيهم أكثر. يقول لا والله صرنا مكان الفلاني وشفنا شيء الفلاني، قبل هذا جاي من الريف ما شاف شيء، بس الحين لا، يشوف ويعرف ويطالع ويقارن، وفي إنترنت وفي جوجل وفي كل الأشياء هاي. فصارت متطلبات الإنسان نفسه أكثر، واللي هي تحط ستريس أكثر على مزودين الخدمة أو مزودين أو إدارة المدينة، بغض النظر عن منو الأجزاء اللي فيها. أنتم كلكم تعرفون وطبعا في التحول هذا في المدن، دبي لها خاصية، لأن نحن ما عندنا يعني وايد ريف الناس يجون من، يعني كم واحد يوم البر يعني عندنا هنا جليل. بالعكس الحضارة صارت العوير وصارت المكان الثاني يعني والهباب وحتى، بس ما هذا برنا، نحن ما عندنا شيء. التحول اللي صار في دبي عندنا نحن هو انتقال الناس من برا، وانتم تعرفون الميكس الموجود. هذيل الناس منتقلين دبي لتطلعات معينة، طبعا زيادة إنتاجيتهم، ولو يحسون أن انتقالهم إلى دبي ما راح يزيد من إنتاجيتهم كان ما يو. فهذا اليونيكنس الموجودة في متعلقة بدبي، وبمستوى النمو كذلك للناس هذيل. يعني نمو المدن العالمية يمكن تحت السيطرة، يعني في 3%، 2%، 4% سنويا. النمو اللي نشوفه نحن في مدينتنا مختلف جدا وتسكليكال، يعني ممكن يطلع إذا الأوبورتيونيتيز كانت موجودة ويطلع بسرعة، وممكن يصير له نوع من الاستابلايزيشن إذا هذا. فبعد المدينة يجب يكون عندها الفلكسبيليتي، القدرة في المحركات الموجودة في المدينة هذه أنها ممكن تزيد وممكن تهدي في هذا، وهذا بعد يأثر على قدرة المدينة أنها تقدم الخدمات بطريقة إلاستيسية. كلكم تتعاملون مع أدوات معينة وأجهزة معينة، أجهزة اتصال، أجهزة منزلية، وسائل نقل، كل الأمور هذه. قبل كانت الكاميرا يعني تصور فيها وتودي الفيلم يحمضون يعطونك صورة تفرح بها، يعني وايد أنك صورت وطلعت شيء. ثلاجة تبرد الأشياء، يعني السيارة وسيلة نقل فقط، يعني توديك من مكان لمكان، يعني ما تعرف شو هي وين وشو تسوي وشو ما تسوي. بس انتم اليوم تعرفون بعد ان كل الاشياء هذه بدأت تصير ما يسمى اذكى واذكى. مو بس تخدمنا نحن افضل، لا، بدأت تتكلم مع بعض، ومو بس يتكلمون مع بعض، يتكلمون مع اشياء ثانيه. سيارات تتكلم مع الساتلايت، ولا مش عارف شو يتكلم مع شيء ثاني. فهذه كلها اللي يسمونه الطفرة التكنولوجية. أنا ما صراحة ما أسميه طفرة تكنولوجية، أنا أشوفه يعني تحور تاريخي كامل يعني اللي صاير. وبعدين ما أعتقد أن هذا نقدر، سواء كنا مدينة ذكية ولا غير ذكية، هذا الشيء أنا أعتقد بيستوي. البريشر، يعني مثل ما يقول the ball is in our court. هاي الأمور راح تصير وبتحصل، وبيكون نحن لنا عند اكسسبيليتي عليها. انتم تعرفون قبل اذا واحد جاء من سفر ولا من مكان، قال والله انا اشتريت الشيء الفلاني، هذا المكان الفلاني في المدينه الفلانيه، تقول زين هذا وايد زين حلو عايبني ابغى واحد مثله، يوم بصير ان شاء الله الحول بشتري. اليوم الوضع اختلف. اليوم يقول لك واحد انا اشتريت شيء المكان الفلاني، انت تصير تفتح التليفون، لابتوب مالك، جهازك هذا، تصير تطالع هاك المحل، تتنقى، تشتري، تدفع، ويبون لك لين بيتك. فلما نتكلم عن إنتاجية وكفاءة للإنسان نفسه، شوف الفرق بين من 10 سنوات وشوف الفرق اليوم. لنفس الشخص لنفس البضاعة، يعني كانت تحتاج انك تسافر وتسير يعني شغله extremely inefficient normal logical كل انسان يسويها، انه ابغى شيء لازم اسير اخذ الشيء هذا. اليوم اختلف الوضع، ان الشيء هذا اللي تبغى بيجيك ويو كان ترانزاكت يعني ان سيملس واي. هذه كلها الناس هذول الموجودين عندنا اليوم نحن في المدينه او في مدن اخرى يطالبون المدن اللي هم فيها بان تخدمهم بهالطريقه. اذا انا ابغى شيء I should be able to look at it, catalog it, buy it or not, pay for it, and you deliver it to me. لأني أنا مشغول، لأني أنا عندي شيء ثاني أسويه. I have my things to do. ما متفرغ أصير أصف طوابير وأسوي أشياء وأشتغل عندكم أنتم لازم تخدموني. تعرفون ليش؟ لأن إذا أنتم ما تسوون الشيء هذا I take my bag and move on. في مدينة ثانية بتخدمني بطريقة أحسن. And this is reality، ولازم نتعامل مع الشيء هذا بالطريقة هذه. فالكفاءة والإنتاجية دائما عامل مهم جدا في قرارات الإنسان، وخاصة تأثر على مدينة مثل مدينة دبي أكثر. ليش؟ لأن الغالبية الموجودة الخيار هذا متاح لهم دائما، خيار الانتقال من مكان إلى مكان. من كلامنا وزياراتنا ونقاشنا مع الناس الثانيين والمدن الثانية اللي شافوا اللي تعاملوا مع الأمور هذه، يشوفون المدينة الذكية هي المدينة اللي تقدر تكون يسمونها يعني مفاصلها مترابطة أكثر، يعتبرونها كسكيلتون ويقولون اليد روحها ما تشتغل وكذا وكذا، فالجوينتس works together يعني، فممكن في جوينت كبير في جوينت صغير بس doesn't matter، كلهم لازم يشتغلون مع بعض على أساس وهذا معناته أن القطاع العام نفسه لازم يشتغل مع بعض ويشتغل مع القطاع الخاص ويشتغل مع المؤسسات الثانية الاجتماعية وغيرها. الزائر لما يزور أو الساكن الموجود في المدينة هذه يجب أنه يشوف المدينة كمدينة ولا يشوفها كمؤسسات متشعبة في المدينة. يعني السكسسفul موديل اللي شافوه بأن كل ما كان الساكن أو الزائر الموجود في المدينة هذه يشوف المدينة هذه كون ايكو سيستم يعني كون انتيتي كان أفضل، لهم better chance أنهم يكونون مدينة ذكية، يكونون مستقطبين للناس. المدينة الذكية كذلك وما بطول عليكم وايد يعني السبيتش مال الأخ اللي هي مدينة قادرة على جذب الكفاءات واستقطاب العقول. والحين تشوفون في كتابات للشيخ محمد في الصحف وفي الميديا، أنا متأكد أنتم تتابعونه، مو بس جذب الكفاءات واستقطاب العقول ولكن أهم من هذا كله المحافظة عليهم. يعني بعد ما أنت تقدر your sales pitch is strong يعني تقدر تجيبهم، يجب أنك تحافظ عليهم أنهم يستمرون يكونوا منتجين في اقتصادك أنت وما يكونوا منتجين في اقتصاد حد ثاني لأنك you lose out. شيء من الأشياء اللي بعد يتكلمون عنها هو أن المدينة الذكية هي المدينة اللي تقدر عندها طريقة أفضل للتواصل مع الناس كمدينة وليس كمؤسسة. يعني مو مؤسسة معينة تعمل سيرفي مع الكاستمر، هذا مو بتواصل. كمدينة تتواصل يعني في بلاتفورم معين أن الناس يتواصلون مع المدينة ويقولون حق المدينة هذه شو يبغون وشو ما يبغون، شو يحبون وشو ما يحبون، وشو اللي يتوقعون منه أن يكون أحسن في المدينة هذه. والمدينة هذه لازم تكون أنها ريسبونسيف يعني أنها شو تقدر أنها فيشوفونها كبلاتفورم واحد. شافوا هذا الموديل اللي هو أفضل عن الموديل اللي هو individual أنه والله شو رايكم في الخدمات الفلانية ولا شو رايكم في الخدمة الفلانية ولا في هذه، ما تفي الغرض المدينة الذكية بالطريقة. شافوا أن المدن الذكية هي اللي تقدر تركز عملياتها على الأشياء المجدية اقتصاديا واجتماعيا يعني، وفي نفس الوقت عندها القدرة أنها تتخلص بسرعة من الأمور الغير مجدية اقتصاديا واجتماعيا. يعني تتعرف على شو بعض الأشياء اللي موجودة في الممارسات أو المؤسسات أو الأشياء بغض النظر عن شو اللي غير مجدية اللي هي تعتبر كثقل أو وزن على المؤسسة المدينة هذه وتتخلص منها بطريقة يعني تسكرها يعني تاوتسورست يعني تعمل لها حاجة ثانية يعني تعمل. في دروس كثيرة هذه الأشياء الأساسية اللي شفناها. وأعتقد بالمناسبة إذا ما أدري إذا تعرفون ولا لا، ألمانيا كدولة الإنتاجية بير كابيتا للشخص الأعلى في العالم، وما تشوفون ألمانيا في مدن ألمانيا في السمارت سيتيز ما تبين. ليش؟ لأنهم يمكن هم ما دخلوا يعملون رانكينج حق نفسهم. بس الأغرب من هذا كله أن إنتاجيتهم أعلى بير كابيتا. ألمانيا من أقل الدول في العالم لديها ساعة عمل. هناك دروس ممكن تعلمها. I'm going to do your job. يسعدني أن أرحب بالسيد راشيك بارمار رئيس أكاديمية IBM للتكنولوجيا لإلقاء كلمته حول المدن الذكية من الرؤية إلى الواقع. شكرا.
So good morning. It's an absolute pleasure to be here to share some perspectives on the journey from vision to reality, as you talked about. Let me just change the right presentation. Yeah, I thought long and hard about what I should share with you. I mean, you've got such a wonderful program already. You know, you've got the foundation for what could be clearly the most ambitious and most exciting program in the smart cities agenda around the world. So I wanted to start by just sharing some thoughts. We started on the journey within IBM to think about what a smarter city would be. And we were actually very careful. We didn't call it a smart city. We talked about smarter cities because we see this as a journey. And it's a journey that every step on the way, you learn more. And as you implement the next set of initiatives, you learn some more and you realize there's further steps that we can take to make the world even smarter. And this is a constant learning process and evolving process. Since we've started, we've worked on well over 2,500 engagements, and there's some common characteristics that come out from the programs. The first one is everybody wants to try and define their unique value in the world. What's my unique value? My city has to have its place in the world ecosystem that matters to the citizens, matters to the governments, matters to everybody. Even the young child has got to care about why they're in this place. Talent is the underlying fabric of what makes a city, and your quote from Shakespeare is wonderful, Your Highness. It's you know, very apt. The talent is what makes a city something unique and special. We have to also recognize that there are limited resources. The limited resources mean that we have to be mindful of how we make use of those resources. So each city has to put in place the right strategies based on what resources they have at their disposal and make effective use of them. But ultimately, people live here because it's a place that they enjoy, that they love, that they want to feel part of. It becomes that sanctuary for them. And the Smarter City agenda needs to recognize the importance of vibrant communities as something which keeps people here. You don't want to be just a city where people transition through from day to day. They need to want to be here. And then ultimately, the government and the underlying mechanism, how we create order, have got to create the social fabric that recognize the changing demographics, the changing requirements from those that inhabit the place that you happen to govern. And so these are five of the common characteristics that we see from cities around the world. And as we looked at the various programs, you start to realize that a city has a common vision, and you've got your very compelling and exciting vision. That vision comes of many parts. It's about citizens, it's about enterprises, it's about business, it's about infrastructure, it's about prosperity, it's about communities. But ultimately, the city consists of a set of systems, and those systems have got to share the goals that you have from the vision of being a smarter city, and those systems have to play their part in that journey. And so you need to realize that each of those systems are interconnected. The bus cannot run unless you have a healthy driver to drive that bus today. Right? And so the health system has got to help that bus drivers be healthy. So these simple connections are things that we often forget. And they're the ones that break some of the programs that we see going forward. And as I've done a lot of work, and some of my work has been recently published in the Harvard Business Review, we're starting to see some common ways in which technology allows us to better understand the opportunities for innovation. Innovation is what really excites people. It's what makes people want to come and stay here. The innovations that you have, whether you're building the largest building, whether you have the fastest train, those things where you're changing or challenging the barriers of what's accepted wisdom are things that excite people to want to be here. Creating the kind of competitions that you have around smarter cities creates that buzz and excitement for people wanting to be part of the program that you have here. And so the 5 patterns, and I won't go through these, but these 5 patterns provide some perspectives on how technology allows innovation to take place. It provides the information, the raw data can be translated into insight, which allows us to define the right steps on our journey. And I actually want to pause. I mean, I am a technologist. I've been working in the technology space for now 30 years. And often we don't stop and think how far technology has advanced. Many of you may not recognize this particular picture here. It's actually the first transistor. I was lucky enough to go to New Jersey in Bell Labs to go and see where this first transistor was created. And this is a little piece of technology which is about so high, it's about 4 or 5 centimeters high. And this little piece of technology allows us to have computers, it allows us to have mobile phones today. And you may not have thought about how far we've come since 1947 when the first transistor was created. And if I was to ask you how many transistors exist in the world today, we'd struggle to be able to provide some kind of number. And as part of my own work in the academy, we started to look at this question. And actually by 2010, we had 1 billion transistors to every human alive. 1 billion transistors to every human alive. And we only started making transistors in 1947. And that gives you a feel for the trajectory that's taken place in advancing in these technologies. And so you might say, well, yeah, so what? What it means is we can instrument almost any aspect of daily life. Whether it's tweeting, as we see on the screen over there, about the meeting that's going on here, whether it's being able to put sensors on food so we know where the food is going through our systems to see where it perishes, whether it's putting sensors on our transportation, whether it's sensors on our water systems, sensors on the doors so it makes it easier for us to walk about, whether it's automating vehicles. All of those technologies become possible because technology is miniaturized and become affordable to sensor almost anything. And I really want to sort of step back and look at a video just to give you some perspectives from the corporate IBM. Every year we do this thing called 5 in 5, 5 technologies that we think will change people's lives in the next 5 years. And this particular video from this year's 5 in 5, this year's 5 in 5 is quite valuable in sharing our perspective on cities. So let me just play that video.
We love cities. That's why more than half the world's population lives in them. But cities can be hard, unforgiving places to live. And I'm not just talking about the dating scene. Cities are tough because they require us to live on their terms. But in 5 years, the tables will turn with cities adapting to our terms. Through cloud-based social feedback, crowdsourcing, and predictive analytics, we'll shape our cities to our evolving wants and needs, comings and goings, and late-night pizza hankerings. By engaging citizens, city leaders will be able to respond directly to our needs and dynamically allocate resources and pizza. Systems will connect billions of events in real time to anticipate movement and react to human preferences, patterns, and demand. For example, instead of buses running on fixed schedules, monitoring systems that might predict storms during rush hour will anticipate more riders and dispatch more buses. Through our devices, we'll develop an intimate relationship with our cities. We'll use our devices to do everything from report a pothole to discover an underground show. As we speak to our cities, they will listen and become a direct reflection of all of us who live there.
So the point of that video is that it's not about technology, and your quote from Shakespeare again is a wonderful quote because it's actually about the people. And it's actually what matters to the people that we have to really think through first, because that gives us the foundation on which to create a smarter cities journey which makes sense, is sustainable, and will be engaging for the citizens themselves. And that's where I want to start by thinking about one of the biggest challenges we face in the world today, and that's one of sustainability. And often we don't think about the challenges that are really out there. And what's happened is that we go to watch a movie like 2012 or the Day After Tomorrow, and we sit in the cinema with our 3D glasses, and it all feels real. The water is lashing over our heads, and we really feel we're in that movie. And at the same time, on a similar piece of glass at home, we'll be watching the floods in Brisbane. We'll be watching the earthquake in Tokyo. We'll be watching some other natural disaster that's taken place. And it just feels like another movie. And the point is that we've become numb to some of those societal issues. The society at large has been bombarded with stuff, and they've become numb to these things. Whether it's a smarter cities engagement, whether it's a societal issue, we have to start to make our journeys personal, make them relevant and important to the individuals, because that's the only way we're going to be able to make change. We as leaders can't make that change unless the folk out there, the citizens out there, want to be part of that journey with us. And so making this very personal and important to them is a critical part of that journey. And that's why we need to think very carefully about our talent strategy. And our talent strategy, not only about the talent that we have in the room today that's going to help us lead this, but the talent that we need to have to be able to build this future that we want to create. Whether it's the plumbers, whether it's the builders, some of the raw materials that we need to have. Where are we going to get this talent to be able to drive this journey? Because it's not going to happen on its own. So we've got to create the right kind of services, and some of the e-government work you're doing here is wonderful because it starts to remove the friction in the daily life of individuals, and you've got to constantly drive towards thinking through how do we take the friction out of the daily life to make it easier for everybody to live in the city. We've got to start to change the quality of life. The quality of life's got to be relevant and important to the individual, because that's going to be the thing that makes them want to stay here. Everybody wants to progress, and progression in the past has been about capital wealth. You know, how much wealth have I got? Now more and more progression is about the experience. It's what is it that makes my life rich and fulfilling? And those experiences are the ones that we really want to cherish. And often those experiences come through education. So being the place to learn becomes a very important and valuable part of the whole fabric that you have in the city. Healthcare, we all become sick, and having the healthcare which allows us to have not just a lifespan, but a health span is something that's fundamental to the journey that we need to think through. And how do we make it easier for people to live a healthy life throughout the journey? Not just think about the 60 years when you're working, but what happens in having a healthy life 20, 30 years after you've retired. And having that as ingrained in the healthcare system is kind of fundamental. And ultimately, people want to be safe. They want to feel safe and be able to walk around and do what they want. And as the video said, instead of the city demanding what we do, the individual deciding how they want to engage with the services the city provides is one of the key journey factors in driving this program. So how do we think about this differently? And as I look at the programs, and by the way, I could quote many examples, whether it's work we're doing in Kyoto, helping them become a walkable city, whether it's work we're doing in Glasgow, trying to help them become a sustainable city, whether it's work we're trying to do in London, trying to redefine how they become an economic superpowerhouse and driving some of the innovation there. All of these come back with some common characteristics. The first thing is, how do we pull together and collaborate on the information that we have available at our disposal to make the right decisions? And actually, it's not just the right decisions, it's spending enough time to form the right questions. Because unless you have the right questions, this journey is not possible. Right? There's all the information out there, and I already talked about the number of sensors. There's 20 exabytes of data out there, 20 with 23 zeros at the end of it. It's the amount of data. And we're awash with data, but it's how do we pick the right bits of data to help us inform those decisions? How do we anticipate some of the problems that we're going to encounter on this journey? Because all journeys always create problems that we don't anticipate. And one of the dangers I see in many of the programs is they spend so long defining the journey, they never actually figured out how to go and do the journey. And we'll talk some more about some of those challenges going forward. Also coordinating the resources. You have a tremendous amount of resources here, and you've got tremendous appeal in bringing global resources to play to support what you're doing. But how do we coordinate them to make sure that we're leveraging experience? And what we're doing in the healthcare service and the transportation service, how do we collaborate so we're not relearning some of those things? Because sharing those experiences around the city services is one of the key success factors here as well. And ultimately, it's engaging the citizens. The people that live here need to want to engage. They shouldn't be forced to engage. They should want to be here because this is good for them, it's good for the city, and it's good for what they're trying to achieve themselves. And so the right journey, as I describe it, has three main elements. And the first one is a compelling vision. It's got to take into account the issues that are relevant and pertinent to the place. It's got to have a clear articulation of the ambitions. It's got to have some shared outcomes that people want to drive forward with. You've got to have investment. You can't make change without investment. We understand that. But ultimately, one of the key factors that makes journeys possible is having an inspiring leader. And that inspiring leader has got to be somebody who people want to follow. That's kind of definition of a leader, I guess. But ultimately, it's somebody who can span all the different cultures that exist in the city, be able to engage everybody, engage those that can make a change happen. And then you've got to think about the tactics. What are the tactics that we're going to embark on, which will give us some quick wins, some things that we can put up as poster childs of what this journey is about, to demonstrate that we can do this, to have the courage to make progress. How we scale this, so it's not just something that's going to be here and now, and it's one small project and we've got there, but it's a constant journey. How to create governance that doesn't make things too bureaucratic, but make sure that we are leveraging the expertise in the right kind of way. And ultimately, this has to be a journey that shows that we are inspiring so that others will want to follow our lead. And to be a leader, it takes a lot of courage. And that courage comes from having something that is inspiring and something that is worth achieving. And ultimately, it's about a journey. And the journey is about thinking through platforms. And we've understood platforms at the city level for many, many years. We think about the platform for water. All infrastructure are, in essence, platforms. And what we're doing now is building a completely new city-level infrastructure, which is one of the technology and the data which allows us to constantly evolve and emerge as a superpower in this program. The other part of the journey is you've got to think global. You can't think just local, because the marketplace is now truly global. And to have that global reach is fundamental to us going forward. And the last part of the journey is, it's got to be something that people believe is achievable. Right? Nobody wants to embark on a journey saying, that's just too ambitious, we're never going to achieve it. It's got to be something that we know is achievable. And just as when Kennedy had a dream to go and fly to the moon, put a man on the moon, that dream felt unachievable at the time, but he demonstrated how it was achievable. And by bringing together science, technology, and talent and investment, that made that kind of vision possible. And I think all the smarter city journeys need to have that kind of moonshot type of vision, but have sufficient evidence behind that to prove that this is an achievable and ultimately sustainable journey. So how you think about the journey is something that we can discuss in a lot more detail going forward. But in the engagements that I've been involved in, and they're numerous, we start with something which is, what are the drivers for change? What's making us want to change? And unless you're clear in articulating why you're trying to change, what are the drivers for change, nothing is possible. That ultimately leads you to a vision, and the vision becomes very exciting, very compelling, and you start to articulate the vision in ways in which matter to individuals. So you start to define some shared outcomes which matter to people. So when I look at Glasgow, for example, one of the shared outcomes was to address fuel poverty. And fuel poverty is something that may not be relevant in a nation like this. But fuel poverty as an example is something that city leaders cared about. Even the child who was almost homeless cared about, because it was something that mattered to him. And having that shared outcome is a critical part of this journey. And then you can start to build your journey with a set of principles. What are going to be the principles and policies we drive to make this change happen? And then you will hit what I describe in probably 95% of smart city engagements is the barrier to creating a smarter city. And this barrier seems to emerge every single time we go through these engagements. And I'll talk more about some of the barriers. But until you break through that barrier, no progress really happens. You may have projects, you may have things that happen, but you won't actually make tangible, sustainable progress towards this journey. So the next part of the journey is to define programs which will last 2-3 years, which will make tangible, sustainable change. And those programs will be built to projects, and those projects will create solutions. The solutions will address the outcomes that you need to have to try and achieve. But that barrier is something that you need to be very, very mindful of, and be careful that you don't get caught in this trough of delusionment, the trough which stops you moving forward from that barrier. So let me look at some of these barriers. And the barriers are ones which are common around the world. And as I say, we've worked with over 2,000 engagements, so we're very consistent. The first barrier is this barrier between commercial and organizational boundaries. You know, I have my particular value. You know, I run this part of the business, I run this part of the service, I run this part of the government capability. Once you become protectionist, you can't find the shared vision. You've got to be pooling that. So be careful of those barriers, the boundaries themselves. The second thing is information. Information sits in pockets throughout the city. You've got to be able to pull that together and be able to integrate that to create a unified view of what's reality. So having this vision, which is head in the clouds, is fine, but you've got to have your feet on the ground. The data, the real information gives you the feet on the ground. The ability to then execute on multi-agency projects is something that really is a big challenge. And that's something where you have to work at it. And I know you've done some of these already, so I know that the capability exists here. But be very mindful that multi-agency projects, which all of these smart city projects are, become political nightmares. Right? So you've got to get past some of that political nightmare and work together. Whether it's government, whether it's third sector, whether it's business, we've got to work together. Changing citizen behavior. As you do this, it's very easy for the citizens to step back and say, I don't want to do this. You've got to engage them. You've got to want them to be part of this. Procurement processes. The government has a tremendous capability to use procurement processes to make change happen, but often those policies, the procurement policies, inhibit the journey that you're trying to embark on. And the last part is the policies that you have in place. Often the policies are being put in place for very good reasons, the governmental policies. They stop us making some of these changes possible. Whether it's access to information, whether it's sharing some of the resources that we have, we've got to overcome some of those. So these are some of the learnings that we've got, and again, I can talk more about these as we go forward. I want to share two other things with you before I close. The first one is the outcomes model. It's very easy to get caught up in the vision, but unless you really think through the action that you're going to take or the intervention you're going to have, why you're doing it, who you're doing it for, where it's going to be done, and who's going to do that, you don't make that progress possible. And then relating that to some very clear outcomes and making sure those outcomes deliver value to all the key stakeholders of a Smarter Cities program. So the governments themselves, the utilities, the firms, the businesses, the citizens, and the resources, everything needs to have a clear outcome. And the last thing I want to leave you with is, we've done a lot of work looking at the 7 steps or steps towards a smarter city. And this is, I think, the distilled wisdom that we have from our engagements. Define what the smarter city really means to you and everybody in the city itself. Be very clear on how you're going to co-create value. This isn't about any one of us, it's about all of us. How do we start to really secure the approach by drawing on all the expertise at our disposal, have the right kind of policy framework, create a roadmap which is executable ultimately, financing, and then enable and engage. So those are the key words that I would have to share with you. So let me close here and give you some chance for questions. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I want to thank Rashid Parmar for this very interesting and enlightening speech, which is no less than the earlier one by Mr. Ahmad bin Byat. Thank you very much. This has been a good scene setter for us, really. And I will just very briefly just try to cap this here before we move to our next brief speaker again and hopefully engage you. That's the important part of this forum. I'm very happy we've got this forum right when we should have, really. Dubai has a challenge, and our challenge is very unlike other smart cities as well. We don't want to be a smart city. We want to be the smartest city. That's a taller order than the other cities, I think. But again, as Rashik was just saying, you need leadership. I don't think we have an excuse here. We have that. We have the support. We have what we need to move forward, I think, in terms of what's needed. We're working at the cross-section, a very interesting intersection of 3 sectors: public, private, and I think we have to see the people as a new sector altogether. We have to take them into the equation. So we can no longer refer to PPP as public-private partnership. We need to add another P to that, and that's the most important one, which is people. So it has to be people, public-private partnership. And this would make things easy for us if we are to succeed in meeting the challenge and in delivering to the vision or beyond that vision. we want very quickly, of course, this is going to be a problem as highlighted. It's a big challenge. It's not a problem. It's a challenge. And we, in Dubai, we thrive on challenges and overcoming challenges and setting trends. You know very well, we want for this forum to become, hopefully, the Davos for smart cities. And we want it to be, it has to have a role in trend setting. This is not difficult because, you know, we've already established Dubai as a trendsetter. We're told of stories where in neighboring and beyond neighboring countries, decisions at state and beyond levels are no longer dependent on very extensive feasibility studies submitted by consultants. It's enough to go and say, well, Dubai has done this. And many decisions are much easier to implement simply because of the Dubai implementation and the Dubai experience. I think we have a lot to expect it from us. And I will, before I move to our next speaker, I just want to remind you all of, you know, the TripAdvisor's ranking of Dubai last week as the best in the world for hotels and shopping, beating Cancun and Bangkok for hotels, beating London and New York for shopping. And I do actually have an extra copy of, or some copies for this for our married audience to take back home on the shopping part as well for London and New York. Dubai is a better place now. Without further ado, I would like to ask Dr. Hichem to give us his reflection. Dr. Hichem has actually lived, he's a global citizen. He's lived in some of the so acclaimed smart cities. And I think he will hopefully tell us a bit more from his experience as a person in these cities, and where does he see the Dubai advantage or the Dubai challenge. And then we will wrap up.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for this invitation. I'm really delighted and honored to be here today and speak to you about the concepts that we see. I'm part of the SAP Business Transformation Academy, but also what I personally see as being important in order to build the smartest city. So I think this is really what one expects always from Dubai. So I moved here only 5 months ago. Before that, I've been supporting the region over the last 10 years. So I'm seeing the changes, and I lived in several cities majorly in Europe, where I could really notice by being here that how far advanced Dubai is already. Looking at the Smart City Initiative that you launched with the 6 pillars, this is really, as I'm going to talk and give some examples of what I've seen and also the projects that I was leading and together with my teams. And then you also can benchmark yourself and see how far in advanced you are in the vision to compare to what already exists in these different other cities. So I would like to start by giving first, so I would like to start first and give some, to set the scene, to see how important urban is today. So the world has changed over the last maybe 50 years, and even more and more, that one looks at the term urban, it starts to be more and more important. You know, in different areas of the world, people were more rural before, they're no more urban. All this is changing everything. Why? Because in urban you have a concentration of people, ideas, challenges, and all this is somehow interwoven. I need to get this fixed in order really to make people happier and the life of people happier. So we'll see how we're going to derive out of this scene the different elements, the 3 elements that we see as being the basis to achieve smarter cities. So 120 top cities around account for 29% of the world GDP. The BRIC countries themselves are growing fastest in terms of population inside the city. So one looks at China and you see how the increase of a city, the mega cities that they are building, the challenges are huge and one needs to address them. 80% of the world GDP come from urban, and 50% of the world's users in terms of energy, in terms of resources, assets, everything are really in the city. And all this is a growing trend. So this makes really the idea of smart city being a global topic that needs to be addressed. So what drives the urban competitiveness? So we talked about this and we said that Dubai is aiming to be really the smartest city. You have a vision, you have a plan how you get there, but there's a competitiveness. And I think Dubai is a very competitive city, and this is why also it keeps attracting people, talents, and also keeping this talent is competitive. Looking at the different elements of competitiveness, it's first of all having a right government in order to make this happen. Right? The first thing. It should be inclusive, meaning not only a government which governs the people, but includes the people themselves, includes the citizens in order to help this government to transform and provide better life for these people. Human and social capital, this is extremely important. Looking forward, education, skills, how can this be established by having a vision and how to prepare the future generations in order to deliver upon this vision. Financial expertise, of course, maturity, being a financial savvy city. Infrastructure from all angles, a soft infrastructure, the hard infrastructure himself, and the quality of this infrastructure. So this is the basis in order to create the economic prosperity, whether it comes to really big companies or whether, and this is one of the most important part of it, really being a very fruitful ground for startups, which will be the basis for the economy of the future. And I think that here in Dubai you have really a very, very strong position in order to enable startups to come to settle here or to grow outside of the cities themselves in order to be a fundamental pillar of this city. Society, of course, themselves, free, open, diverse, fair. This means that providing also the framework for the society to participate in the development of the country. Global attractiveness, we talked about it, safety, security, the economy itself, I just mentioned it, and of course resilience and sustainability. So coming back and wrapping this up, we have 3 dimensions, which are first, what we said, improving the livability, making people happier. So this is the people that Dr. Besser mentioned, the P or the people, which is absolutely crucial. Transforming the government in a permanent transformation. Not only companies need to transform, the government itself. And finally, also the growing the economic prosperity. I'll have a short deep dive into these. Each of them can be really the topic of an entire conference, but I'm just going rapidly through this to talk more about maybe in a later stage. So first of all, I want my city to be livable. What does it mean? Be safe. I need to feel safe. It needs to be green, clean, and includes me, myself, as a person to contribute to the evolution of the city, and hence also the quality of my life. So improving livability. So first of all, if you see here three pillars, first is really empowered and enabled communities. This means that being as a citizen, collaborate in the city. How? We talked about open data before. So how can I use the data that is provided by the city for me in order to myself to use this data and to contribute to make my life better and the life of others? Because this is about really the inclusive part of it, participating in creating jointly the future. How can I do it? The more information I get, the more I'm able myself to contribute. I have new idea, I can create something specific for the government. If I look as an example of the Expo 2020, for instance, you have all these great ideas about how to include people already now for the Expo 2020 by launching some contests, maybe or some kind of competition of people providing their ideas in form of apps. How these apps can really help the Expo 2020 to be even more better for all different areas, whether it is about the experience of the participants of the Expo 2020, whether it is about how you can get people quicker on board, how you can inform people. And this shows how you include the citizens. And of course, the level of motivation is extremely high. This is even on a global level here, not only on Dubai level. And this is something that is absolutely fundamental in order to make it. This is also connected communities. People will be jointly developing on that. Cultural, diverse, and including society. I think this is clear what you see, all the events that are taking place here in Dubai for all levels, from whether it is culture, sport, and it's absolutely amazing. So I'm coming out in Paris before, and I hear people saying, yes, Paris is center of culture and so on. Say, okay, fine, but if you look at the future, what is really taking place, if you look at the roadmap to Dubai, things that are being created here, I think this is a fundamental pillar for that. And all this, of course, helps for people to feel happier and really integrated in the city. Health and caring population, so we heard that before, this is really a fundamental part, to have a health, what's called a platform that helps you during your entire life to be there and supports you, and of course, based on the right data, based on the integration of the entire public health, but also private companies that will all contribute in order to make this happen. So, empower me to serve our communities better. Safe and resilient city. So how can I contribute to make my city more safe? What do I need to participate myself? What is my obligation? But also my free will contribution to that. Prudent and sustainable stewardship. This, I think, less a topic here, but more in Europe. How can one really make the tax and revenue management more effective? Liberating knowledge and creativity. I mentioned that before, having the the collaboration in order to innovate, creating a solid ground for young companies to evolve, having to provide them with the technical and also the architectural infrastructure for them to be able to get easily access to this innovation enablers and being able to create their own startup quickly in this city and being able afterwards to develop it. And finally, of course, a good government. And here we go beyond only when you talk about providing services, e-government services, but here really what it goes into getting all the other elements fixed. And the government is the one who is orchestrating all these elements. It's not just about providing maybe a mobile app or some services, but it's more. And this is also what you have already in your vision. So business friendly, I mentioned that rapidly already. It's about a growing economic prosperity and basically not only focusing on bringing in, integrating the big companies, but also the small ones and providing the right asset and infrastructure. Of course, transport and mobility is, as I mentioned in the very beginning, is one of making the city most competitive, is having the right transport and mobility. One example I would like to mention here is the city of Montreal in Canada, how they integrate the entire network of buses and of rail transport in the city in a real-time way, on a real-time platform, in order to be able to steer the availability of buses depending on the flows of the people, depending on with some predictive elements in, also kind of a loyalty program for people to use more that and that line. So it's really integrating and not making the people adapted or force the people to use a certain schedule of the trains, but on the buses, but on the contrary, turning things around and making the public transportation serve the people based on what they need, based on their daily on their daily usage. And this is, of course, how you make people use it, and at the same time, the city gets greener. People use less their cars, and you have the opportunity really to step into new areas of development. So best cities paradigm. So all this is, I mentioned it, you have the three pillars: improving livability, transforming government, growing economic prosperity. But all this needs to be based on technology, on ICT technology, on platform, but there also on what we call architectural paradigm. So first of all, people and talent, how you're going to manage this. So IT is not only the platform, but IT is also the solution, how you're going to manage and retain the people and the talent. So the entire architectural approach, IT architectural approach to human capital management is one of the solid elements of that. Budgeting and finance as well, of course. Procurement, we mentioned that before. My colleague mentioned about the importance of managing the procurement. If this is not done, can be really hindering in order to realize the vision. And the IT management itself. This is something that should not be neglected. How am I going to manage this huge IT infrastructure I'm going to set down in order to make it flexible, to make it available, and to make it scalable? Because this needs to grow together with your vision. And all this needs, of course, to be built on a technology platform. Let's look at the urban design principles that I mentioned before. So if one looks at the architectural perspective, so you have the design principles, meaning how you want to build something based on your vision. First of all, you define your vision, where you want to be. Then you define the goals, let's say from a business perspective. So what are the KPIs, the benchmark, the KPIs that you want to achieve? After that, you define the design principles, how you're going to get there. And here, there are what we call good governance, the first thing. The user empowerment, in this case, it is the citizen, but it's also the public servants, meaning the people who work for the government. How can one make their life easier? How can you make them work, in fact, wherever they are, not only at their desk, in order to serve the citizens? By mobilizing their working environment, by providing to them the right data at the right moment to take the right decision, with real-time analytics, for instance. Community engagement, we talked already about that, providing with the people the platform, the ground, in order also to take decision based on true information that they get updated on the real time. And the service innovation. The service innovation, that can be really a big field. So what are the services you want to provide? Are these really rather services where people would just do one step and, for instance, like pay their electricity bill? Or can that go much further? The service innovation can be really providing people with additional data, additional services that are flexible, so way that they actively can contribute in improving their life. Whether it is about giving feedback, immediate feedback about something that they are experiencing in the city, participating in the in resilience, for instance. In one of the cities we worked with, every citizen has access to an application where he is able to report any incident he sees, the way that the firemen are able to react immediately and really in advance and real time if there's anything that is be considered as an exception. So setting the ground for that is one of these the importance of the design principles. Urban resilience, mentioned that already before, really making sure that all the people have the right information, right time to take the right decision and ensure this urban resilience. Leveraging the 5 enabling technologies, we mentioned that before, analytics, giving the right data at the right time to take the right decisions. The application, I mentioned that, in order to be able to have a solid ground for executing these different design principles. Mobilizing, this is clear, being not tied to an office, but having the right information wherever one is. Cloud, making things scalable, making things being able to grow, making things also being flexible for development. And of course, technology and database, having real-time access data, very quickly being able to analyze things and take the right decision. Okay, let me finish by an outlook. So we call it the real-time city. What is it? It is unleashing the power of collective insights, empower developers to innovate. Everybody is a developer. When one looks in the US, I learned recently that there are children of 8, 9 years who start to learn coding, to develop applications, so that in a certain moment, if you have the right level of education, everybody can develop, and everybody can contribute in a very innovative way. So to the evolution of the city and unwire the business. So really getting things mobile. All this is needed in order to make really the city the smartest as possible. That was my last slide, so I'm happy to hear questions afterwards on the panel. Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure when you have smart speakers who stick to time. Makes life much easier for all of us, I think. And I want to thank both our speakers who were not maybe properly introduced in terms of their capacities or their qualifications. We're very fortunate today because both gentlemen who just spoke to you here are well-accomplished practitioners, academics, researchers, you name it. They come and are very much engaged in all the aspects that they were talking about. They know exactly what they were talking about. I want to invite our speakers to the panel here to join me so that we can take and field some questions from the audience in this room, the audience outside this room, and the audience in the outside world, I would say, because we have the links and the linkages with everybody. So Rashik, please, and Hichem. I want to say quickly on our partnership on smart cities. We're only at the beginning here. We're collecting valuable input, and we will set out more detailed plans later this year. We start to implement in the next. There will be other events in the second half of this year and a full calendar of activities for 2015 as part of this forum. We will have thought design labs, we'll have workshops, seminars incorporating both local and international contributions and experiences. I hope many of you will take part if you are not already taking part. Working together, we can find those solutions that deliver our vision into a sustainable reality. And there are many outcomes where everyone wins, whether it's from sharing infrastructure, sharing data, or simply sharing expertise. I will join our speakers and we'll take questions, I think.
Khalid, advisor at the Prime Minister's office. Thank you very much for this kind of event. My question to the panel, smart cities depend on big data and open data. So what are the 1 or 2 policies that the government should focus on related to big data and open data, especially the privacy part? Because we want the private sector and the citizen to contribute, but what about the privacy of citizens?
What you have to do is to draw a very fine line, and it is a difficult line. And the fine line is between how do we make the data which allows us to improve our services available in the right way, but not infringe on personal privacy. And we can learn by some of the mistakes others have made, right? And often it is actually mistakes that help us learn. So let me give you the story of data from the telco, which is being used around the world now. And you're probably familiar with this example, but others may not be, so let me use this as a starter. So the telcos capture data and know exactly where each handset is. They know the speed and trajectory of those handsets, and by overlaying that data onto maps, we can provide high-resolution traffic data. And so in Europe, Vodafone sell that data to TomTom. It's public domain knowledge, right? They sell that to provide high-resolution traffic data. Now, it's not difficult to conceive the point where you can use that same data to identify who's speeding. And so the Dutch government, as an example, and there's a big controversy going on right now, is demanding that data and then using that data to place speed cameras. Now then you get into this question of, should that data have been given for that use? Did the citizens who have those phones give that data to the telco for that use? And of course it wasn't. So the policy that you need to drive is one of use of data in a way which is pertinent and transparent, and allows citizens to make a conscious decision on whether they're making that data available for that purpose. And so considering data and its use is the key policy decisions that we need to work on.
What the value, what is going to happen with the data, and what is the return to yourself. So looking at the cards that are distributed by retailing companies. In the beginning in Germany, people were quite reluctant and were so, okay, they just can get money back, even in disclosing all their purchases, they were then open to share. And so if you show the value of transparency, I think then you can initiate and get the real user of this data, but it's very important to set the right policy. And this is a cultural topic.
Thank you. Let's take a number of questions, actually, and then we'll try to answer a group of questions. Tfadal.
Mahmoud Al-Bastaki, CEO of Dubai Trade. In Dubai, we have pioneered the e-government in the region, and then we went to smart government, and now the topic of smart city. Not talking about all the good stuff and achievements. In your opinion, what do you think that we are not doing right? What is alarming? We want to hear something that you blow a whistle here that, guys, don't continue doing this, or you're missing this, or something that we should do more, something that you will open our eyes to, because we want to hear that, not only the compliments and the praise.
Indeed, thank you, Ahmad. But this is, of course, we'll come back. And I think this is really one of the main objectives for this forum, why we are here today, really. This is exactly over a long series of very much an exchange of information and expertise from all over around the world. This is exactly what we aim to achieve. And it's with people like Rashik and like Hichem, we're able to hopefully reach our destination much more quickly and more safely. But we'll come back to that. Another question, please, if anybody.
Assalamu alaikum, Amr Shroof. My question actually for both of the gentlemen. My understanding smart city is really something for the government, but also beyond the government. This is really about how to engage people from business or from society or sort of that thing. So what is the appropriate governance model to enhance a sustainable, effective smart city transformation in a way or another? Because I guess this is not just only government people or official people in board.
There's actually a lot of work being done on understanding the governance model for smarter city programs. And a piece of work I worked on for the UK government was all about the future of local government. And in that paper, we described what we call civic enterprise. And the notion of civic enterprise is where you start to define a structure where the civil part of the governance structure, the traditional local government and the central government, becomes much more enterprising, and enterprises become much more civil. So if you look in the UK as an example, we now have local enterprise partnership boards, which at the city level consist of third sector social businesses, enterprises, key businesses for the city, and the local government and the central government. They sit together on a board and focus on what are the things that matter to the region, how do we invest in those programs, and how do we govern the programs that matter. So you do need to create these cross-organizational bodies which provide that governance. And coming back to the question that the gentleman over here asked, which was, what do I see as missing from the program? And I have to say, it's very difficult for me to give that answer right now. I don't think I have enough depth of understanding of your programs to be able to give you an answer. What I tried to do in my speech was give you some of my perspectives on questions you should be asking yourself. And what I don't see enough of in the press is clarity on what is it the questions that we're trying to answer. I see a very clear challenge of becoming the smartest city in the world, but what is it that we're really trying to solve for society at large, I don't see talked about, and that may be something that we want to think about, because we do need to engage everybody in this journey.
And indeed, I just want to comment on this. Remember that the main objective for this government is the happiness of its people. This is something that's underlying any initiative we have. Right. So really, this goes without saying. It's built in. We all strive in all businesses, capacities, enterprises to address this and to keep this in mind. It's always with us, actually. So, questions, please, before we...
Chair, my comments to the last two questions. So first of all, regarding the governance, I think what is really important to have representatives from the people in this governance, from citizens, representatives from the government, and also from the industry, from the economy. So and really having this in a very solid way, like steering a big transformation program inside a multinational company. So trying to have all the elements of the right governance, setting up the right governance forum, setting up the different policies inside this governance structure, having it really run and led like a big company, like a big enterprise that is driving, not in this case to higher revenue, but driving to the right goals, which making citizens more happy and also the city more competitive. To the second question, so I'm same for myself, so I'm not into depth into the different programs, so I'm not been involved in different programs. So my perspective that I gave is based on what I read, what I heard, and is our the vision, the strategy. And I did not personally get involved in the execution to see that. But recommendation is also in this execution to define clear, measurable parameters for that. Define what are the KPIs that needs to be achieved. It's like running that from like a company. So you have your processes, you have KPIs that you measure, you have a business case behind, and every decision to be taken needs to be referring to this business case and monitoring this across the entire execution. This can be a business case of an echelon, but can be your benefits case, which is linked to the strategic goals. So would be more than delighted to have a discussion directly with you to better understand how this program is run, and also from a business transformation perspective, give my feedback to that and maybe advice in order to steer that also from our perspective to that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Ghanem Al-Falasi, Silicon Oasis. My question is really, how can I persuade the big companies, R&D, to come to Dubai and really develop the next generation solution for smart city? Dubai gave all the confirmation and really the commitment to go smart city. What is needed more in order, like IBM and SAP and other companies, to really take the initiative to come here and develop an R&D center for smart city? Thank you.
Okay, so let me answer that question. And we are very careful in selecting locations for doing what we call collaboratories. And collaboratories, we see from research, research is no longer done in darkened rooms in the middle of nowhere. It's got to be done in the field, in places that are really driving impact. So when we look at locations for siting a particular research facility, research has got to push the barriers forward on what's possible, the art of the possible. So we have to articulate what are the barriers that we're going to be able to break, and how can that be of value globally, and how can the research provide commercial advantage for any corporate. So that's the first thing we need to understand. And the second thing is, how do we have access to the right talent? Because no research structure is possible without having the right talent in place. So you need to have a clarity on the research agenda topics which are going to have global impact. You've got to have a strategy to show where the talent's going to come from. And then ultimately, you've got to show how that can be openly accessible. So it can't be something that's closed and protected. It's got to be very open. And those are the characteristics that we look at when we look at where we might partner.
And from our perspective, it's really about piloting projects. So the research and development we do for smarter cities is really something that we do together with the cities. It's not that it's exactly the same that Rashik just said. It's not about doing something in a closed environment. So our research and development is always on the ground. So if we develop, for instance, a new city app, it is something that we do together on the field in conjunction with a city who is aiming in order to develop such a city app to serve better the citizen. So I'm sure we can find initiatives where we can collaborate on that we can pilot here, and at the same time we get our people from research and development contribute to that and also add direct value to your initiative.
This is your forum, really. The whole idea is for your opportunities to be presented to the big companies who are here also to benefit us, to exchange with us. That's exactly one of the things we would like to achieve in this forum. We definitely want to create that exchange platform across all levels, all sub-levels. We need to make sure that we work with this vision, we protect that vision, we maintain that vision, inshallah. We want to keep, talent management is very important. Like Ahmad, as he said earlier, you want people that come here to stay. You don't want us to become a transit terminal. People just pass by on the way out. In the old days, yes, duty-free Dubai was the big thing. Today, no, it's coming to Dubai to stay in Dubai. And you want to keep those people in Dubai, and you want to ensure that they stay with you for as long as they are around. Just a quick, if I may take, I noticed a quick question on the thing. It's a very interesting question, actually. I mean, let me try to phrase it as I saw it. How smart is smart? I mean, today, what we considered smart last year is different from what we label as smart today. So this smart label. Now, for governments to invest and to go into big major projects which are based on a certain label or certain level of smart at one point, what happens later when the new generations of smartness or the levels of advanced technologies and things come? How do cities or countries maintain or remain competitive in terms of maintaining what they've built or adding to that? If you, I'll take you first.
I think the vision is important, but the execution is even more important for that, because the execution needs to be flexible and always needs to adapt to the new challenges. So if you have a program over 5 years, what you define today might not be valid after 5 years. It's again an analogy to private sector. If you develop a business case for today, and when you are 3 years after your transformation, who knows, the world might have changed. So during the execution, you need always to keep an eye on what are the new requirements that come up, what are the new technologies to serve you, what are the new needs that people will have. And while you're going forward, you learn as well. And this is really about being smart. So you execute, you develop something, you run it, and people say, okay, this is fine, but at the end I need more, or I need something different. So keeping this permanent dialogue with the ones who are going to use the services that we are developing, this is absolutely important to be really smart.
And so the way we look at this is smart is a relative measure, and you articulate that very clearly as a relative measure. And at a moment in time, you may be smart compared to others, but you may be less smart compared to others. And we were very careful in choosing the words for our program. We called it Smarter Cities. And we had the ER on the end because it is a journey. Every step on that journey, as I said, you will find new things. And as you step forward, as you, for example, reduce water usage, and you think, wow, we've got to 50% of the water usage, we've got there, we're really smart with water. You will start to realize, actually, you know what we left over? There's a whole bunch of other things we didn't think about. We can actually optimize these pieces. And so each step in the journey, as you progress on that step, you find other ways of optimizing, transforming, and improving the services that you provide. And so there is constantly opportunity for evolution. And other cities will see what you do, and they will catch up with you, and they will try, and in some cases, overtake you. Welcome to the world. That's life, right? So you can't stop yourself doing that. You're on a race, and you've got to constantly figure out how you stay ahead on that race.
That's exactly right. We all know we are on a race, and we always have to stay ahead of that race. This is something embedded. If you allow me, we're going to have shortly, we're going to go out and have more chance for all of you to network. If you allow me just 3 minutes to try and wrap up so that we are smart enough to stay within time and that we don't go beyond that. I was flattered, actually. I had this, it's a joke story, but during one of my visits last year to one of the conferences, one of the friends there told me a story which I found very interesting, and I'd like to share it with you. The story goes, a guy was walking along the beach in North America, found a bottle and picked it up. A magical genie popped out and said, "Thanks for letting me out. For your kindness, I'll grant you one wish." The guy said, "I've always wanted to go to Hawaii, but I can't because I'm afraid to fly and ships make me deathly sick. My wish is for you to build a highway from here to Hawaii." The genie replied, "I'm sorry, but I don't think I can do that. It's more than 4,000 kilometers in water. Just think of all the work involved. Think of the huge pilings we would need to build to hold up that highway and how deep they would have to be to reach the bottom of the ocean. And think of all the cement that would be needed. Plus, since it's such a long span, there would have to be petrol stations, rest areas along the way. No, that's just too much to ask, impossible. Think of another wish." The guy thought for a moment and said, "Well, there is one thing I've always wanted to do. I've always wondered about Dubai. What makes it so successful? How they are so committed, how they can achieve all they do. I'd like to make my city able to compete with Dubai." The genie thought for a second, then asked, "Do you want that highway with 2 or 4 lanes?" So I guess we have set an expectation. These are, things portraying, I think, the level of achievement. Obviously, smart cities offer us a lot of chances as long as we don't limit our understanding to that of smart applications. It's way beyond smart applications. Technology applications are only the means to an end. We have to realize that, and it's not the end itself. Our role here at MBRSG is not to come up with those innovations, not at all. It is to support them and give you the environment for success to all the stakeholders, whether it's the forums for you to share experiences, resources to stimulate innovation, or the fast networks that underpin smart cities now and in the future. It's our dream for a very prosperous and continuing to be Dubai. Your presence, all of you here today, with us is a clear indication of how successful this forum is. The response to such a short notice, it really was a short notice, even by Dubai short notice standards, this was a true short notice. We have speakers who've come from Riyadh overnight, a gentleman who's arrived a couple of hours ago, who's leaving a couple of hours later, because, again, I think this is a great testimony to us being able to attract the best brains and the best minds, hopefully, that will contribute to our journey. We are in a race, but it's not a race against time. We're in a race with time to achieve and be ahead. But this is the Dubai way, you all know it, and we thrive under the exhilarating pressure and challenge. I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to all who have participated in making this event a remarkable one and the first step on a long and continuous ladder of opportunities and excitement. Special thanks go to IBM and SAP for contributing some of their best brains and talent. Maybe next time we can have IBM's Dr. Watson with us. I think you all know about Dr. Watson, the famous IBM computer, who apparently has just been certified as a physician, I'm told. He's passed the exam for medical whatever, so maybe. You never know what virtual realities we have. Thanks also are due to the in-house team and the external support, but most thanks are to all of you who are here, who have made time in what I know very well is a very short and very busy and committed schedule. Thank you all for being here. I hope we have not disappointed you. I hope we have established a clear beginning for something that should hopefully, with all your contributions, become something worthy of being yet another global event. This is not just a local event. This is one that needs to really be seen and be proved across the whole globe. Thank you all again very much, and I'd like to invite you outside to spend more time with our speakers if you like, and to network over a few things. Thank you very much.
Thank you.